The Pacific Ocean is a brutal body of water. In fact, it is probably the most dangerous area for swimmers in the United States. Estimating the exact number of drownings specifically in the Pacific Ocean each year is challenging due to the lack of detailed ocean-specific data. However, some relevant statistics can give us a broader understanding of the issue. For context, globally, an estimated 236,000 people die from drowning annually. The Western Pacific region, which includes many beaches along the Pacific, accounts for about 74,000 drowning deaths per year, making up a significant portion of the global drowning death toll. However, if we focus in on California for a moment, there are approximately 616 drownings each year based on data from 2005 to 2019. Hence, drowning is a significant concern, particularly among young children, and the problem is nothing new. With that in mind, a well-known philanthropist in the 1930s set out to establish a safe place for the youth to swim in the Pacific. And although this idea was put forth with nothing but the best intentions, it has ended in a slew of modern controversy, and swimming is no longer recommended. This is the crazy story of the La Jolla Children's Pool Beach. I'm your host, Ryan Socash, and you're watching It's History. Our story starts in the 19th century when a humble school teacher named Ellen Browning Scripps became one of the wealthiest individuals in the United States. Born in London, England, on October the 18th, 1836, Scripps moved to the United States with her family, spending her youth in my own home state of Illinois. This is where she became a certified teacher and began giving classes in Schuyler County. She furthered her education at Knox College, one of the few educational institutions to admit women at the time. She graduated in 1859 with honors in mathematics. From this time forth, Scripps returned to her family home in Rushville, Illinois, to teach in a one-room schoolhouse until the Civil War broke out. Then, she headed to Detroit to join her brother, James E. Scripps, in publishing the Detroit Evening News. This was the start of the Scripps family fortune, a road that would lead a humble schoolhouse teacher from the backwaters of Illinois to the glory of the Pacific Coast. By 1881, Ellen Scripps had done very well in her professional life. However, after struggling with the stress of legal conflicts within the family, she took an extended trip to Europe to recover and document her adventures in a diary. Traveling the railroads of France, Italy, Austria, and Germany, Ellen wrote weekly letters to the Detroit Evening News about her experience, enlightening average Americans about what lies beyond the Atlantic. Weeks turned into months, months into years, and by 1889, she had been on the road for nearly a decade. In that time, a lot changed back home, and her shares in the family paper had accrued a fortune as the chain had grown west. But there were also some pretty hard changes, one of which was her sister Julianne, who had fallen ill. In search of a remedy for arthritis, she moved out to California. And according to records, Ellen's sister ended up in the New Order of Life, one of the many controversial utopian communities of the late 19th century. And so it was. Out of concern for her sister's welfare, Ellen made her first visit to California in the winter of 1890, but little did she know, she'd spend the rest of her life there. Ellen Scripps bought land in San Diego to establish the Miramar Ranch, now Scripps Ranch, where she lived until 1897, when she moved to a seaside cottage that she built in La Jolla named South Milton Villa, apparently in honor of the street where she was born. And it was here, in that villa, that Scripps hosted many events and began a mission of philanthropy. Focusing on a large circle of female acquaintances, she became estranged from her family circle. Many of these acquaintances moved to the town as well. Unmarried or widowed, they formed the La Jolla Women's Club and discussed noble topics ranging from literature to politics, and in the process helped to forge many progressive stances that still define the state's politics in the modern day. Anyhow, the range of charity given was astounding, with Scripps donating the bulk of her fortune to these causes. They founded things like the San Diego Zoo, the Torrey Pines State Natural Reserve, San Diego's Natural History Museum, and of course, the La Jolla Children's Pool. In the early 1900s, it was common knowledge that visitors to San Diego Beach should not venture into the ocean's dangerous crosscurrents. But sadly, many did not heed those warnings. For that reason, in 1921, Ellen Scripps sought a remedy and hired a hydraulic engineer to survey the area so that a wave break could be installed, breaking the current and allowing children to swim in the sea. However, even from the start, this idea was controversial, so the project sat in limbo for years until permitting was granted and construction began in the late May of 1930. Finally, almost a year later, a public celebration was held for the grand opening of the children's pool. Although by this time, Scripps was too ill to attend the opening herself. Even so, for the first time in history, children began enjoying the sea without the fear of drowning. Ellen grew further ill in her home and ultimately, on August 3rd, 1932, at the age of 95, passed away. Her obituary described her as a woman who had, quote, perfected the art of living as well as the art of giving. In addition to the countless public destinations she had funded, people loved her children's pool. Families would spend entire weekends there, as for the first time in history, children were shielded from the dangers of the Pacific. However, after 60 years of use, by the mid-1990s, San Diego shifted its focus to prioritizing the beach not as a haven for people and children, but for seals. And as a result, the water became filthy. In the early 1990s, the population of marine mammals, particularly harbor seals in San Diego, had increased to unprecedented levels. So the city reacted by creating a marine mammal reserve that extended to the seawall entrance of the children's pool. By 1996, twice as many seals were using the beach as the nearby rocks. And by 1999, it had become their preferred location to birth pups, resulting in a high bacterial count caused by a seal excrement overload. And although the California Coastal Commission ruled that the children's pool could not be used as a marine preserve, for all practical purposes, the public could no longer access the water. In the late 1990s, there were some reports of seals being hauled off, but by February of 2003, the National Marine Fisheries Service told the city it could not intentionally harass the seals at the children's pool. And back and forth the legal battle went. Some lawsuits ordered the removal of the animals, whereas others ordered their protection. Dog owners were also outraged when their beloved pets were outright banned from the area, following a series of unfortunate encounters between dogs and seals. By 2009, 200 harbor seals lived on the beach regularly and became a tourist attraction of their own right. And this has more or less been the state of affairs ever since. The city put up a rope barrier so that pregnant seals could rest and give birth. And the lifeguards warned, quote, like all wild animals, seals and sea lions are unpredictable and can become aggressive quickly. They have sharp teeth and many bite. Sea lions, in particular, are territorial and can be aggressive. Beyond that, the San Diego Police Department had responded to many calls from the children's pool, addressing alleged incidents of threatened assault and intimidation between seal advocates, swimmers, and divers. For that reason, the city installed surveillance cameras at the pool to have a legal record of any unbecoming situation. And what they found horrified them, as there were people, assumingly unaware of the presence of cameras, who would sneak onto the beach to abuse the animals. It's funny to consider how the good intentions of one of the richest women in American history brought so much contention to Southern California. This 16-foot-high seawall, built with 3,200 barrels of concrete, has separated the currents from the beach, but it's also divided a community. Activists and animal lovers would say that seals should get first dibs on the beach, and they wouldn't exactly be wrong, as the ocean is their home. On the other hand, traditional American families with kids might say their child deserves a safe place to swim. Not to mention the California coast is vast, so trucking a few seals out shouldn't be an issue. We will never really know what Ellen Scripps would say, but my intuition tells me that in the modern world, she'd probably support the animal rights side of the debate, as she was a progressive. But it's impossible to know. We can't apply our standards to the people of the past. So I suppose we'll need to work this one out in the comment section below. What are your thoughts? Should the children's pool be a sanctuary for the pups of seals, or should it be preserved for our children? I look forward to hearing your thoughts, and thank you so much for watching. As always, I'm Ryan Socash, signing off.